how important are prenups and cohabitation agreements? And are they more common today?
Absolutely, they're more common today. And frankly, the stigma that we're seeing is gone, especially with second divorces, because usually we see with second divorces, people are a bit older or much older. They've accumulated some more income, more money, and they need to protect what they're coming into the marriage with. We hope the marriage will be forever, but we know 50% of them fail, unfortunately. So you need to protect your assets.
So, prenups, I mean, you didn't hear much about prenups in the past. So, they are more common now.
We didn't hear a lot about it, and it was hush hush and
Yeah.
stigma.
Yeah.
It's commonplace now. There's no stigma as far as we're concerned, and we're seeing so many more. And even people who don't have a lot of money but are anticipating growth in the future and the potential breakdown of the marriage, thinking, I don't want to in the future split what I've made myself during the marriage.
And the cohabitation agreements, is it similar to a prenup? Because a lot of people aren't
It,
getting married, Lisa. They're living together. So,
Absolutely. A cohabitation is similar. There's different rights it may protect, but the great thing about a cohabitation agreement is if the parties who sign that decide to get married in the future, it automatically morphs into a prenup. So you don't have to go back to the lawyer's office again.
okay. Um, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see when someone's even entering a marriage, I guess, right? Because if 50% of relationships, end, um, I'm sure you see a lot of cases where they're thinking, if I knew this, I would have done things differently.
Right. A lot of people don't realize that if they come into the marriage with a matrimonial home that they owned before the marriage, that they think I'm not going to have to split it, and that's wrong. Basically speaking, the second you get married, if you have a matrimonial home that was purchased even before the marriage, you're going to have to, divide half of it up when you separate. And with housing prices today, we know that's a lot of money. So you need to protect the matrimonial home when you're getting married.
So that is where the cohabitation agreement comes in or prenup. Can that protect it?
Both can protect it, yes.
Oh, okay.
The bottom line is before you're getting married or moving in with someone, you need to speak to a lawyer.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting because most of us, I think, are attached to our homes, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes, and for most of it, us, it's the biggest asset that we either own or will ever own in the future.
Let's talk about the financial burden of getting divorced. I know I've seen this many times. There's the legal costs, of course, but there's also the impact of the assets and properties getting divided.
Right. Well,
So two things. Yeah.
first of all, with respect to legal costs, lawyers, as we know, are expensive. And one of the most important thing when choosing a lawyer is not to choose someone who's going to be an aggressive shark. We hear that all the time. You both sides want to have a lawyer that knows what they're doing and will represent fairly, because otherwise, nothing but skyrocketing law the bills are going to climb, and you don't want to throw unnecessary money into the lawyers. So make sure you do your research on lawyers with, good reputations and good reviews.
Did the COVID situation and the pandemic situation change things? Because you heard a lot about Zoom meetings and Zoom sessions. And is that still happening? Like, I'm just wondering about the impact of the costs for that and whether it's still happening.
Right. There were some great things, not a lot, but they came out of COVID. One of them was that a lot of court, if not all of court at one time during COVID, was via Zoom. And this was fantastic. Our fees went down tremendously. So rather than a day at court being $4,000, it was an hour jumping onto a Zoom for $400 an hour. Some courts are still doing that, and you can ask for permission sometimes. But unfortunately, a lot of courts, the presumption is going back to in person. I'm actually on a committee with one of my associates fighting to have Zoom, be presumptive because it's so much easier and less effective.
So that's
Pardon,
crazy.
more
So
effective.
you're saying like that's a big difference, Lisa? 4,000 versus 400. Why the difference?
Because you're talking about travel charges and you're talking about sitting around in a court all day. Lawyers charge for that. Whereas if we have a Zoom, like you and I, we can jump onto a Zoom and it's an hour in and an hour out. So we're only billing for say 1 hour versus 10 hours of travel time there and back and sitting around for 9 hours in court. It's a
Oh,
waste of everybody's time.
wow. And I can imagine, I think some people would actually prefer Zoom meetings because they don't have to face the person that they're in conflict with as well.
Absolutely. And especially cases with domestic violence, the person who's alleging domestic violence does not want to be near the other person.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, Zoom was great and is great.
Okay, we'll take another break. We'll be right back.